My name is Samra Zafar, and I am a third-year medical student at McMaster University. I'm also a mother, an author, a speaker, a former banker, many hats that I wear, and I'm really excited to, in very short amount of time, be a doctor. When I think about my journey from how I came to Canada as a child bride to where I am today, I think of my game changer being the people who lifted me up, who showed kindness to me in such moments of my life when I felt absolutely hopeless. The friends who showed up at my doorstep with ice cream when I was having a bad day. The professors who believed in me so much that I had to believe in myself. My mentors who helped me make critical decisions of my life, and kindness from just absolute strangers. And there's a quick story I want to share about that. The early years of my marriage, I was not allowed to go anywhere outside of the house, except for the nearby Ontario Early Years Center, where I would take my daughter once a week so that she could play with some other kids in the community and just mingle. And that was my little taste of freedom every week. And I was always looking forward to that. And one day, as I was walking back from the center, my daughter started asking me for a donut. So there was a Tim Hortons on the way. I got in line, I ordered the donut, she bit into it, and I could not find any money in my purse. I never had any money on me, but I would sometimes find coins lying around the house and put them in there. And I was sure I had a toonie, but I did not. And I couldn't find any money. I was so mortified. I was just so embarrassed. And there was this man who was behind me, who was an absolute stranger, insisted on paying for my coffee and for her donut and walked out. And I walked out of Tim's that day, and I was sitting on the bench on the street and just feeling so hopeless and so powerless. Yet in that moment, there was also a ray of hope that maybe the world out there isn't so bad. Maybe if I leave, it's not going to be the end of the world. Maybe there is something I can do about my life. Maybe there is more kindness out there. If this man showed me kindness, this absolute stranger, then maybe there are others like that. And it was moments like that that became the pivotal moments of my journey. And when I think about my advocacy work, that what led me to it was because I have been on the receiving end of that kindness. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for so many of those people who were my champions. And now I want to be a champion for others because I truly believe in paying it forward, and that's my core value in everything I do. When I was asked to share my story for the first time, I was very nervous. I thought to myself, no way, this is too shameful, it's personal, what will people say? I don't want my story to be public out there. And my daughter that day said to me, Mom, if every woman thinks this way, if every woman thinks this is too shameful, we shouldn't be talking about it, then how will it change? I think you should talk about it. She was 12 at the time. So I decided to share my story. And the first time my story was published, it wasn't the book, it was an article that my friend's mom had written. And it became public on my convocation day from the University of Toronto. So here I was at the convocation hall getting my degree, very emotional moment for me. And then I came home and I logged into my social media, and it was absolutely flooded with hundreds, maybe thousands of messages from people all over the world, from all walks of life, all genders, different stories, but similar journeys of trying to find themselves, trying to break through oppression, trying to motivate themselves to get back up when they've fallen. And just the solidarity that I felt, it was like, there's this saying that the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. And that was certainly one of those days when I found my why. And I knew that I would never stop. So since then, one thing led to another, and eventually I wrote another article in Toronto Life, and then my book, and now my second book is coming out next year, which I'm very excited about. And every day that I do this work, I feel like I'm just getting started, because I know that my story is not just my story. It is the story of millions of people around the world who continue to suffer because of silence, because of oppressive systems, because of inequities. And I want to do my part in making a difference. And I think the way we can all make a difference is by breaking the silence for the millions of silences that are still waiting to be broken. I always knew instinctively that education would be my vehicle to freedom. Even as a little girl, when I was growing up in a very patriarchal family, where often I was told that my dreams were not valid, I shouldn't have those dreams, I shouldn't expect them to come true, I was always a bit of an envelope pusher. Like, I started a girls' cricket team in my school when I couldn't play cricket with the boys anymore. Or I started a school newspaper to share all my radical ideas of gender equality at that time in my little town in Abu Dhabi. So it was it was always something that I truly believed in. Like, my education was something that I was not willing to give up on at any cost. So when I was pushed into that marriage and I came to Canada, I always just knew that if I get my education, that is something that no one can ever take away from me. It is something that is just mine, and it's going to open doors for me. It will help me make money. It will help me establish confidence. It will help me create a better life for my daughters, for myself. It will help earn me respect. And so my whole focus was to get an education. I wasn't really thinking about leaving my marriage and all of that. That came later. So education became the vehicle through which I developed the confidence and the knowledge about my rights, about my options as a human being, as a woman, as a Canadian, that eventually allowed me to leave that marriage and build a new life of dignity and respect and freedom for myself and my daughters. So education has been the most important instrument, vehicle, whatever you may call it, is the most essential um, component of my path and always will be. Wow, it's hard to choose which of the achievements is particularly meaningful. However, there's a few that come to mind that have been very close to my heart. When I was graduating from the University of Toronto, I was named the Moss Scholar, which is the highest alumni award that goes to one graduating student out of all three U of T campuses every year. And I won that in 2013. And I remember when I came to Canada as a child bride, and I was told that I could not go to school ever, and I would never have an education. I used to, just to motivate myself and keep that hope alive, I used to oftentimes stand in front of a mirror and practice my graduation speech as a top student. So I would actually practice that speech. And 10 years later, 15 years later, in 2013, I graduated and I delivered that exact same speech on that stage when I won the Moss Award. And that award, that accomplishment opened so many doors for me and also empowered me to start sharing my story and opened up that, in fact, that recognition prompted me to do something about this. Because I could take my awards and I could take my degree and my new job and I could live happily ever after. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've earned it. But there was this burning, I can only describe it as almost like this passionate fire inside of me that I need to do something about this, whatever I can, in whatever little way I can contribute. And that became a sense of purpose for me. So that is ultimately what opened so many doors for me to be able to do my advocacy work. And every day I feel like I'm just getting started. And then recently, I won in 2021 the top 100 most powerful women of Canada award for the second time, and this time in the category of women of courage. And courage is the most important value of my life. And I don't think that the way I define courage is that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is, yes, I'm afraid, but I believe in something so much that I'm going to do it anyway. Courage is accepting your fear and moving forward with it, and still doing what you believe in and what you're passionate about. So to me, that was very meaningful. And on a personal level, a couple of years ago on my birthday, my daughters made me a jar of little papers that had reasons that we love you. And one of them, in all of them were beautiful, but one of them I still think of as my biggest award. And they wrote, "The way you teach us how to love ourselves." And I think as a mother and as a human being, that is ultimately my biggest award, because everything that I've done, the primary driver for it has been to create that better life and freedom for my daughters. McMaster has been absolutely incredible. Like my dream of becoming a doctor. So when I was a little girl, I used to oftentimes play doctor with my three younger sisters. I would be the doctor, one of them would be the nurse, and two of them would be patients. And I would, for every birthday, every occasion, I used to ask my parents to buy me those toy doctor sets. And it was something that I always wanted to do. So education and medicine, those were the two main things for me. And when I got married, those dreams were cut short when I came to Canada. And at that time, when I was getting my first few degrees, I loved economics, I loved business as well. And I thought, okay, this is, if I do an undergrad in business and finance, that will allow me to get a job and just land on my feet quicker, because medicine is a long path. And so I chose to do that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it and loved every minute of it. And I enjoyed my career. I learned a lot, but there was always this voice that, what if I could still pursue my childhood dream? And as I was going through my career and my advocacy work was growing, and I was so driven by the impact that I could make in people's lives just by my words, just by sharing my ideas, my thoughts, my stories. And I'm like, what if I can take that advocacy work that I'm doing and the impact that I'm making and combine that with the power of science, of knowledge, of expertise, of research, and take that impact to the next level? And I've always been so passionate about mental health. Our own journey as a family, my daughters and I have gone through, a lot of healing on our own, because we've lived through some considerable trauma. So I was like, I want to take what life has taught me and combine that with the power of medicine and science to really help others also find beauty and life after adversity and trauma in various meaningful ways. So that's eventually what led me to think about medicine, and particularly psychiatry, which is what I've applied to for residency. And it would not be possible without McMaster. McMaster has opened doors for people like myself who come from a non-traditional background. I did not have a science undergrad. I did not have, any of that health sciences knowledge that a lot of my peers have. So when I said, okay, I want to do this, I'm like, which medical school will take me? and I found McMaster and I applied, and here I am 3 years later. So it's been an absolute dream come true. I am so grateful. And I'm going to get a bit emotional on camera, but I'm just so incredibly grateful to McMaster for making dreams come true for people like me. And for so many of us who don't quite fit a traditional path. Um, and I think because of that, we're making impact on many different levels. So it's been an absolute honor, and the mentors I've found along the way, uh, the learnings I've had, the connections I've formed, the preceptors who've been sources of inspiration and encouragement, everything. It's been a tremendous privilege and honor to be part of this institution. When I think of my future career, I think of my advocacy work and everything that I do out in the community, complementing the work that I do with my patients and vice versa. I'm already seeing it. Even some of the things that I've learned through my psychiatry rotations have made their way into my book and my speeches, the lessons that I've shared with my audiences, and vice versa. When I hear from people, from audiences and readers about their stories and their journeys, it gives me a better understanding of their experiences, their individuality, the social determinants of health, the different inequity structures that they face and experience, which helps inform my understanding in my psychiatry work with my patients. So I think I see all of that as becoming almost like a whole. Like it's very complementary to each other. And my passion is to really contribute to building more equity in healthcare, having a lens of intersectionality and inclusion within healthcare so we can really understand how our individualities and our experiences inform us on an individual and a collective level. And what can we do as advocates, as leaders, as physicians, as communicators to really not just help the patient in front of us, but also help raise the level of awareness in the society among us. So I'm very passionate about the overlap of healthcare and EDI, and that's where I see my career going. When it comes to women's representation, leadership, empowerment, gender equity, it's really important to understand and appreciate that empowerment looks different for different people. We cannot use a one size fits all approach. So while yes, we are having conversations, very important conversations about breaking glass ceilings, getting women into leadership roles, um, building equity and gender equality in boardrooms, having more women CEOs. Those things are incredibly important. I'm very ambitious. I want those conversations to happen. I want to be in those boardrooms, in those chairs, in those leadership roles. At the same time, we cannot forget that many, many women in this world are still fighting for basic rights to safety, to education, to dignity, to health, to be just being treated with humanity. And we cannot forget that there are women in so many countries, including here in our country, in Canada, who are still facing so many atrocities. I was one of them, and I have met and heard from countless others in our backyards, in our neighborhoods. So we have to have that level of perspective, that level of intersectionality to empower women the way they need to be empowered. And I would also say that it's so important that for women to also know that when we are breaking those glass ceilings, when we are entering those spaces, when we are sitting at those tables, even if we're the first person, even if we're the first person that looks like us, even if we're the first woman, we may be the first person of color, we may be the first gender diverse person. Let's make sure we're not the last, because it's so important to pay it forward. A few years ago, I had the tremendous honor to become one of the youngest alumni to be on the board of governors at the University of Toronto. And I eventually went to chair the UTM Campus Council for 2 years. It was one of the biggest honors of my life. And I was one of the youngest people. I didn't see myself in that role. I was invited to apply. I thought, what am I doing here? And over the years, I became a leader in that role. And my job now and my goal now is to make sure that I'm paying it forward, and I'm always nominating and mentoring people to be in those seats. So achievement and empowerment is collective. When one of us rises, we all rise. And I believe we all rise by lifting others. For people who want to speak up for something, I want to say just speak up. Find whatever podium, whatever mic, whatever small group you can find, and start sharing your message. Find something that you believe in so much that it is what wakes you up in the morning. It is what lights up that fire in your belly. When I started my activism, I used to go to events in the community, in the neighborhood, and ask organizers, can you please give me the mic for 5 minutes? Because there might be one person in the audience who needs to hear what I have to say. I had no idea that I would one day become a best-selling author or an international speaker or any of those things. What drove me then and what drives me today and what will always drive me is maybe there is one person out there who needs to hear what I have to say. So when you have that perspective, it doesn't matter if this is one person in front of you or 10,000. So just keep at it. Keep at it, and I guarantee you, I promise you that the path will keep opening up. And that's what happened with me. Like, I would speak at one place and somebody else would invite me, and then I would go somewhere else, and one thing just led to another. And today, even though I know I've come a long way, I still feel like I'm just getting started, because that motivation is the same. It's that impact that you can make. And a lot of times, the smallest actions on our part, simply sharing, simply breaking the silence, can have life-changing impact on other people. And one of my proudest moments in my life has been a man who wrote to me after reading my story, a man in Karachi, Pakistan, the same city that I was born in. And he wrote me an email saying, I just read your story. I have a 17-year-old daughter. Her wedding is fixed for next month. And I'm canceling her wedding and sending her to school. And that girl was me many years ago. And today, because of me raising my voice, another girl in the same shoes, in the same boat, is now having a better and a different future. So you can do so much with your voice. Start there, and the rest will figure itself out. When we face abuse or trauma, oftentimes we feel that it breaks us. And it may break us in the moment. It is painful. It is horrific. It shatters us. It never really goes away. We don't move on from trauma. We move on with it. However, we have the ability in us to rebuild those broken pieces, create art from them, make it into something stronger. And that doesn't mean that what happened to us was okay. Abuse is never okay. Oppression is never okay. When people treat us badly, it's never okay. And oftentimes we can't control that. I couldn't control what happened to me, but I can control my response to it. And that response, the power of that response is in those incremental moments. No one has a grand plan of, I'm going to achieve this or that. Maybe some people do. I never did. For me, it was just about the next step. What is the next test I can do? The next assignment, the next course, the next little piece that I can, that, like when you fall down, which you inevitably will, what is that tiny step I can take to move forward? And it is the summation, the accumulation of those incremental steps of courage that eventually determine our outcome, no matter what our circumstances are. And sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader. You have to stand in front of a mirror and give yourself pep talks. When you become your own motivator, you will find the others who rally behind you. So find that courage within you. We often seek it outside, but it actually lives inside of us. And when we give ourselves the permission and the empowerment and the encouragement to use it, when we face our fears, and instead of fighting our fears, we accept them. Yes, I'm afraid. It's natural to be scared. I've been terrified of every big decision and small decision that I've made. At the same time, I've also had faith in my own abilities, in the kindness and goodness in this world, that yes, I'm afraid, I'll figure it out, and I'm going to do it anyway. So find that courage, find that hope within yourself, and shine your light strong and bright, because you deserve it and the world needs it. I can't believe graduation is coming up. It is, it is surreal, to be honest, to think that, you know, it's so meaningful on so many levels. Uh, the last few years have just flown by. At the same time, I've grown so much as a person. I have made so many incredible new connections, and fulfilled my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. So it's incredibly meaningful, very surreal as well. And one of the things that I want to do, though, is travel. I love traveling. I have traveled to 45 countries on my own in the last 12 years or so. I haven't been able to do much traveling at all during med school for obvious reasons. So I am definitely going to make up for that. So in the period between medical school and residency, I'm taking my younger daughter with me, and we're going to do a 40-day hike across France and Spain. So very, very excited about that. It's called the Camino Trail, if anyone is interested in or curious into looking into it. So, and after that, come back, start residency, and I'm really looking forward to learning and growing and just continuing on this incredible journey. But before that, have some fun. My biggest piece of advice to the incoming class would be kind to yourself. There's a cliche saying, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I think that applies to medicine and medical school more than anything else that I've ever encountered. There will be moments where you will feel like you don't belong here. You will feel imposter syndrome. You will feel like, what am I doing here? I don't understand this. I've had many moments when I have felt inadequate, when I felt like I can't understand this concept. It's so hard. It's been a steep learning curve. There will be moments of self-doubt. There will be moments of loneliness. Um, and in those moments, the best thing you can do is to be kind to yourself. Oftentimes when we fall or we fail, society teaches us to, either shame ourselves, oh, come on, what's wrong with you? Get back up. Or, um, force ourselves to get back up and keep going. I think it's really important in those moments to pause. Even if it is a day you can take, a half a day, to just pause and talk to yourself kindly. Tell yourself you're human. It's okay to feel weak in the moment. That doesn't make you a weak person. Your sense of accomplishments does not determine your worth. Your worth is inherent. You belong here. And all the people around you are also facing the same thing. We're just not talking about it. And I think the power of self-compassion is something that I have learned the most during this journey, is to be kind to myself, to take care of myself, um, in those, wherever I could, in those small ways. And that is the biggest thing I'll say, is just be kind to you first and foremost.